Hello again and welcome back to Q&A with S&A. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Shane.
And today we've got a special guest in the studio, Miles Beamish, who we've known for a long time. But Miles, tell us about you and about your business.
So Fiddleys, equipment finance brokers in what we do. Been with the group now for nearly 23 years. Was sort of in that sort of commercial corporate banking space before then.
Yeah.
So I guess always been into the numbers. We pretty much are asset finance. That's 90% of what we do.
Yep.
But we always say, look, if it's got a serial number, then it's financeable, and there's not really many scenarios that we can't try and find a creative way.
Yep.
I think a lot of clients too, just as a broker, think, there's the big four banks and that's it. But when you tell them there's over 40 lenders that do asset finance, a bit like home loan market where there's just a plethora of them. So, I love doing it. That's why I'm still doing it after 22, nearly 23 years.
Yeah, it's funny because, we find that clients, they always know about how to do a mortgage, like mortgage finance and stuff. And when you talk to them about how you can finance assets, they're often like, oh, really? I didn't know that you could do that. What is the most ridiculous thing that you've ever been asked to finance?
Got approved in drawdown was an 8-seater rowing boat for one of the boat houses.
Been
asked about that. Didn't know how expensive they can be. And helicopters, I think a long, long time ago within our group, I guess I'm reasonably creative, did some floor tiles for a trade exhibition business. So,
Okay.
And, those little 1 metre by 1 metre squares, but we found someone that would do them. So, like I said, anything is possible. It's crazy. 30, 40-year-old used wine equipment and things like that. So, there's a plethora, because there's so many lenders out there. The majors obviously stick to their knitting, but that's what, I guess why I enjoy it, because every now and again something comes across your desk, you go, haven't seen one of those before. Anything.
Yeah, so you probably know a bit about things that other people wouldn't know about, like, as you said, the rowboat. What does your average rowboat go for?
It depends which private school's the one buying it, I suppose, but I won't go into that. They could be $80,000.
Yeah,
the big
wow.
Ones. It's very expensive tech. Hence when they're going up down the Yarra there, it's usually the sports masters that are nervous with the new boys in it, because if they knock it about, I don't know if they're insurable, because that's that. But probably one of the big things about what we do is a little bit different. We get approached a lot of times from clients not understanding, other than what their bank says, there are so many things they can do. And right at the moment, we see a lot of that with a bit of a cash flow squeeze for a lot of small businesses, and saying to them, have you recently purchased some equipment for cash? And they'll say, yep. We say, you can get that back. It is financeable. And they just don't understand that that's sort of possible. So that's an example of, hopefully our IP puts us where we are in the market.
And the fact that you can spread yourself across a number of different potential lenders, as opposed to if you go to one bank, you've just got their products and that's it.
That's probably what drove me out from being a bankie myself, was just always probably a little bit more of a salesy type person than credit. Always trying to find a reason to do something for a client. And that was the frustration. You'd had those clients that you'd worked with, you're in the bank, you got that one credit person, client wants to grow or expand or do something. And if that credit person says, no, I'm not comfortable doing it, go back to that client, you say, we can't help you. There's a good chance that client will find a broker or another bank and get it done. So that was probably the main thing that I love what I do is, if a lender does say no, then there's a good chance I'll find another lender that will say yes, so we still get the result.
And in terms of competitiveness and pricing, so interest rates and so on, you're competing with the big banks anyway, aren't you?
We are. We're competing, and the nature of what we do is, if we're not successful with a client's opportunity, then we don't receive a fee. So the market says we've got to be competitive with people's banks. And a lot of the times we are competitive with someone's own bank. Just again, we're a large group, so. We're doing $1 billion a year of equipment finance spread across the market. It gives us some good buying power as well.
Bringing it back to tax just briefly, because I know we don't want to go into too much detail, but
the exciting part.
So exciting.
Not really. So up until I think 30 June 23, you had the instant asset write-off where people could basically buy an asset for up to whatever value it was, and they could then finance and get a tax deduction. Now that that's been dropped back to 20,000 and there's certain limits on it, has that had an impact on the level of activity, do you think, in your eyes?
I was only talking that recently with someone. I think we're probably seeing two levels to that. When that instant tax write-off was open slow, though, there was no dollar cap. You had someone that had a fleet of trucks that might be rolling 2 trucks a year, and suddenly they were buying 5.
Yep.
So what that causes is a bit of a lag behind it.
Yeah.
So there's sort of artificial demand bringing a lot of finance settlements, but we knew it was coming. It happened back with the GFC. So certainly you had a period there for maybe 6 to 9 months after the go nuts finished in 23.
Yeah.
It was a little bit quieter. But then we also similarly had issues with supply chain with a lot of equipment coming from Europe. So there's pent up demand because there was a long delay in equipment coming through. So we then had that start to ease the last 12 months. So there was still good volumes coming through. But speaking to some of the OEMs in certain industries, they have to really forecast 12 months out. So they might have manufacturers in Europe that are supplying a global demand.
Yes.
And Australia might just be a sliver, but they're still got to put their orders in to make sure they're in the queue with everyone else. So I know there are certain OEMs in certain industries that it's almost like a comedy movie where the conveyor belt's still bringing it in, but there is a softening of demand at the moment, but they can't turn the taps off because these are orders from 10 months ago when there was sort of heightened demand. So, it's interesting at the moment. But the instant write-off it drops to 20, finishes June 30 unless something changes.
Correct. That's right.
And it depends. So there are industries where the asset can be under 20,000. So an example would be in access equipment, those scissor lifts you see on the side of buildings. They're like 18, 19,000.
Okay.
So if someone's in the hire industry, they might buy still 5 of those before June 30 because it's per asset. So we still expect there'll be a little bit of a push leading to June 30. But after that, again, there might be a little bit of a lag. So.
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of the economic outlook, and I know you're not an economist or anything, but we've all got an opinion. Generally, investment in equipment and so on is a barometer for where the economy might be going in terms of activity and so on. You got any comments on that in terms of what you're seeing and whether you think there's an upside or a downside in terms of the economy?
Yeah, it's probably a layered answer in the sense I think, unfortunately, Victoria, because we're a national group. I've got clients obviously interstate as well. So, and speaking to a lot of the lenders, regularly we get their arrears reports.
Yes,
they're not growing out of hand or anything, which gives us a sense that things aren't too good. We're seeing clients' financials like you guys do. They're not deteriorating from year on year to a point where there's concerns. But there are some lenders that will say they have an arrears book for Victoria and an arrears book for the rest of Australia at the moment. So we're a little bit probably worse down here in certain industries as well. So the big spend, cancelling jobs, things like that, it does have a layered effect. So probably the civil side, there's a little bit of weakness there at the moment. Just builders in general, it's a little bit soft. But then you get industries on the other side of that do well. So I guess we're spread across a lot of industries. So overall, I'd say things probably feel 10% off, 15 maybe in the last 6 to 9 months. But nothing that's overly worrying. I think like everyone, what's happening overseas. Not just in the US, but just those factors create uncertainty. And uncertainty is what leads to people holding back on making strategic decisions like purchasing equipment, especially if it's substantial equipment that they think is going to be an efficient piece of equipment or a growth asset. If there's concern or they're not too sure, there's more chance they'll hold off on that decision. So definitely see with, again, some industries, clients are getting approved and then we'll say to them a few weeks later, what are your thoughts? I'm just holding off. So there's a sentiment at the moment of holding off. Got through the federal election. That's always a quiet period in what we do. Always. And April was just an anomaly. 18-day month, federal election, school holidays, Easter, and then Anzac Day fell on the Friday. I think the 3 days after Easter to Anzac were more quiet than the days leading up to Easter. So again, I think that was an artificially very quiet month. We've seen it pick up, and for us, look, we say it every year, June 30 shouldn't be as the way it is, but it is. It's already started that way. All those clients like you with you trying to remind them to do their tax returns or come in to have a chat, they leave it to the last minute. So again, we're starting to see that now. But I guess from our point of view too, we're going to be mindful when we say to our clients every year, the banks themselves get harder and harder that they have cutoffs. They can be mid-June where they'll say, we will not take any new applications. And I can tell you the last 22 years, maybe 2 years being COVID years, there will always be a client that will ring me the day before June 30. I think June 30 falls on a Monday this year.
It does.
So I'll probably get a call on the Thursday or the Friday just saying, I found a car, can I have it financed? My account says I need to do it by Monday. So we can do minor miracles, but they do get frustrating, those ones that maybe if you'd thought about that purchase, even a month ago. So it's certainly hitting the busy period for us.
Is there any internal turnaround time? So a client comes to you and says, I've found this car or I've found this crane or whatever I need for my business. Roughly, is there any set turnaround times generally in terms of when you buy that to when you get the finance?
Yeah, it's probably more about the type of finance that we're seeking for them. So there's two types, what we call low doc, which is really just a profile assessment, ABN, property status, good credit score. Really, that's about it. Those ones, we've got some lenders that if we get those details submitted, have approvals within hours. I'm talking 3-4 hours, and that could be up to $250,000.
Okay.
The other ones that are in that low doc space could still be within 24 hours, 48 hours. And that can be up to about $350,000 per asset.
Yes.
But if a client came to us and said, I'm looking to buy a $1 million crane, that falls out the scope of the tick and flick. So it's full assessment.
Yes.
If they've got very good accountants, I'm sure like yourselves, that provide the financials and everything that we need to make an assessment before we send it to the lender.
Yes.
We'd expect probably within 3 to 5 days to have those approved.
Right.
The cleaner the credit, the less questions asked. So it could be 2 days, 3. But if it's a new client and it's probably over $1 million, a bit like if you go see a lawyer, you could have 10 lawyers read it and they still got to put their notes on there to justify it.
Yes.
It doesn't matter how good a credit paper we put up. The lender will still ask some questions, even if we think we've addressed every concern. So so low doc, very quick, within a day or two, and it needs to be because the market demands it.
Yes.
But again, if a client's planning ahead and there's some capital expenditure coming up, and we've got the time as well to get them the best deal, we'd say generally allow about a week. Which should still be a lot quicker than the banks.
Yes. And you said clean credit score, and that's really critical to this. But what about ATO debts? If someone's got ATO debts on their business or otherwise, does that make it harder?
I think probably if you asked me 10 years ago, that was like scorned on every lender. But it's just more of an accepted method of funding working capital for a lot of SMEs, probably especially through the COVID period.
Yes.
So the lenders, a lot more lenders now will say as long as it's under a payment plan, broadly speaking, if that ATO debt is no more than, say, 10% of their yearly sales, so if someone's turning over $1 million, $100,000 is probably going to be okay. Give or take. So there's those caveats there; they will accept it. And there's other lenders that will even finance ATO debts. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment.
You'll see more of it.
But,
go for it.
July
segue.
1, the ATO interest is no longer deductible. So we even today, I had another 2 this morning. We're seeing a lot of that coming through right now. We had a lot of clients coming to us probably over Christmas period, thinking they could either not so much hang on, but if their summer was going to be busier than maybe the previous summer, but if it was quite approaching us for some working capital. But we are seeing a lot of it right now where, again, under account advisement that if you've got a debt there, even if it's $100,000, if the bank statements are okay, there are lenders that will take out the ATO knowing that it's to pay out the ATO. And then, again, the ATO might be shortening the terms. Probably correct me. I think under 100, it's 18 months or something.
Around that.
So these lenders will come along and say if it's 100,000 and the bank statements work, we'll pay out the ATO for 100. That gets them off your back, and we'll give you up to 4 years to pay back. So again, smooths the cash flow out, not putting people under that much strain. So there's a lot of that at the moment. And there's no cap on what that ATO debt that can be refinanced. It will again come down to the strength and size of the client. So a lot of that at the moment, and we expect to again get free fees.
It's probably a good time for us to talk about the importance of brokers, because a lot of people, there's a sort of element of, I don't want to deal with a broker, finance broker or a mortgage broker or anything, because they think there's a middleman and, why would I waste my time with a middleman? We love brokers because you're the ones that are really experienced in negotiating things with a bank, understanding what the banks or lenders are going to be looking for with regard to financials, saying to accountants and other advisors, like, we need it to look like this so that this bank can look at it in this way. Do you find that, because we will often have people who will say, do you know a broker? In my opinion, if you're a small business, and particularly when you're looking for things like ATO debt and stuff, which you will be going forward, it's really important to have a trusted broker as part of your, network of people.
Yeah.
How do you go about having those conversations with people, businesses, networks, all of that sort of stuff, that you're not just the, broker in the background.
Yeah.
You're actually providing lots of advice.
I was one of them.
Yeah.
I started out through the university, joining, a bank as a graduate. So that was my line. And for about the first 10 years, if I came across a broker in any way, shape or form, I thought, why would you want to deal with a broker?
Yeah.
And here I am all these years later, I am one of them. And I think for me, I got a taste of it in my last role in the banking system, and I was dealing with some of the larger broker groups that were already out there doing asset finance.
Yep.
Obviously, Finlease is where I ended up, and they were the ones I was probably spending half my day talking to, and realised they didn't all have two heads. They all weren't there to try and steal your last dollar. And so it changed my perception that, like in any industry, there's good bankers and there's bad bankers, and there's good brokers and there's bad brokers. So I think one of the things after doing this a long time now as well, and having some clients that I've had for 20 years, we're almost like what a bank manager used to be.
Yes, correct.
And I guess that was a frustration when I was in the system, was a good bank manager or relationship manager will have a client maybe for a couple of years, a set of clients, but if they're really good, they'll get promoted out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the not so good ones that are applying internally for other roles but getting overlooked, and they might have that client base for 3, 4, 5 years. But generally the good ones are out.
Yeah.
And then we love it when we see a new client get referred in, and I'll sit there and music to our ears is saying we've had three managers in the last 18 months. I'm sick of telling them my story. And it's like, well, you tell me the story once. I'm a broker, so I'll have all that in my head. So every time I'm off doing something for you, you don't have somebody else coming out and asking you those questions again. So we almost see ourselves as the old bank relationship managers.
Absolutely. And I agree 100%. And that's why, again, we like that, because you're a constant, whereas the bank managers internally in the banks generally aren't. Yes.
Yeah, and they're asking, they said, and that's the biggest frustration for a small business owner. And I do remember somewhere over all the years of doing trainings and sales courses, things like that, it might have even been when I was in the banks, that as much as I love doing what I do all day, every day, you love numbers and being accountants all day, every day. For a lot of our clients that are SME owners, it's a sliver of what they're thinking about.
Yeah, correct.
So I can walk in there and think he's going to just love me talking about interest rates and how I can structure this creative deal for him.
Yeah.
But as soon as I walk out the door, he's probably got a foreman saying one of the machines is broken down and there's 3 trucks that this. So I certainly appreciate that. We're not everything to our business owners that we deal with. But therefore, so what advice? I'm going to be careful. We can't give advice.
No.
But I can say I have other clients that are in a similar situation. Is trying to respect their time and be efficient when we're dealing with our clients.
Yeah. Important to make sure that we do talk about the, who can and can't give advice, because one of the reasons why we do this podcast is to make sure that people who are listening know what they can and can't ask their different people. And that's why it's really important, again, for a broker to have a really good relationship with the financial advisors or the accountants in the question, right? So, and you help the client by not getting the client involved in those conversations necessarily too, because I know in a lot of situations, particularly with our clients, you and Shane will be working out the deal together, the client sitting there in the background knowing what's going on but not getting into the nitty-gritty of the detail, because the two of you know what you're doing. So
and that probably goes to that part. If there is a client and it's one of your Shane's and they ask me some questions, I'll be saying, that is a question you need to speak to Shane on. I just stay away from it. And then it also helps then Shane to be involved in that decision-making process as well.
Now, finance is it's an interesting area, no matter what, royal commissions and all those sort of things. How do you finding with the compliance side of things? Because there's a lot of paperwork and things you need to comply with.
A lot, It's probably if there was a hidden camera in, probably wouldn't just be our office, it'd be in the whole finance broker market, is compliance. And for us, the large bit of compliance is, a lot of it is the anti-money laundering, AML.
Yes.
Know your client. So it's very frustrating. And it's the reason it's frustrating and more frustrating is that every lender will have their own interpretation of what they'll do. So case in point, I got one at the moment where there was a trust involved, and within the unit trust, without being too dry, there was another trust sitting behind that. And in that trust, there was a super fund. So some lenders will probably just drill down to the fact that it's a self-managed super fund, but this lender then wanted to go the extra step and get a copy of the super fund agreement. So there's inconsistencies there. It is frustrating because some lenders will want photocopied coloured Medicare cards.
Yep.
They won't accept black and white scanned.
Yeah.
Again, there's reasons for it, but I won't bore you with it. Others, Victoria's probably, again, an anomaly. Our driver's licenses only have the initial for your middle name.
Yes.
That doesn't work with a lot of the biometrics that the lenders have now. So then you have to then get a copy of their passport.
Yep.
And once you get a copy of their passport, you then have to get a utility bill to evidence where they live, even though they've got a driver's license that says where they live.
Yeah, right.
Because they can't accept the driver's license because it only has the initial. Yeah, so there's all these layers.
Yeah.
And so yes, it is probably takes up more and more of our time.
Yeah.
I think it will get harder it'll always be, there is and always will be a market for someone that's in the banking system that says, I want to be a broker, hang the shingle up and give it a go. And it's encouraged. Probably as an industry, there's a lot of businesses that probably started in the in the 80s.
Yep.
That was that real time when a lot of the bankies got sick of being bankies. And they're probably drifting into their 60s now. So there'll be a natural, I think, progression. But there's a lot of those ones that just aren't looking to sell out as such. They'll probably just go from playing golf once a week to 3 times, and those clients will just end up with other brokers. So, but in terms of the compliance that's in there, it's just going to get harder and harder for someone to do it on their own.
Yeah.
Because half the time they're having to said it's a lot of documentation with it, especially with a new client. And that's probably one of the hardest barriers we have with new clients is if they're stuck to their bank or stuck to whoever's providing their finance at the moment. We're always there to try and win an opportunity to work with them. But when there's more and more of this data collection up front, where we haven't even sort of built the relationship, we just got to tread that carefully because we're not asking for something that we want. It's what the financiers are after. If there was the ability to get some layer of consistency, and again, we see it there from an AML point of view, where they've got to tick where the source of funds are from and things. I totally understand it's to do with the anti-terrorism, and we all appreciate those layers are there. But for the amount of clients and time the industry spends on it, it's almost like you'd have thresholds and things like that. So if someone's borrowing $2 million, that's a different, and for whatever, but if someone's $10,000 for a used car and they've still got to tick forms to say, where does your source of wealth come from? And it's obvious to everybody. So they're the sort of things that I don't know if it will change, but it's certainly more, not less red tape.
And with last thing on this sort of topic, with brokers in general and banks, I know there's been some banks who are trying to take the brokers out. How are you finding that? Is that an impediment, and how do you see the broking industry going forward?
Yeah, I think the consumer side is always the part of the banking system that is focused on by the politicians. So consumer lending, i.e. mortgages, there's a lot more focus on there. We do sit back primarily in the business to business space and see it could, what starts there's no reason it couldn't come through. So look, there's concern, but there's not concern. I think again for the larger, more established groups like ourselves, as long as we're doing all the compliance, doing everything correctly, do the banks look? There's rogue bankers. So it sort of defeats the purpose if we give a client, or we're working with a client with a particular bank, might be able to move their banking, and then for whatever reason that relationship manager changes and the next one comes in, starts knocking on the door of that client directly saying, why are you dealing with a broker? They come up from time to time. But a good client and a good connection I've got, they'll let me know straight away. Then I'm straight away on the phone. It's one of those things. But if the client's had a bad experience, which hopefully is very rare, then that could happen, and there's nothing that stops that. We just have to live by the laws of the jungle a bit, but also back ourselves. But I think it's definitely the home loan consumer credit side of things. And we do have a consumer credit license. We do consumer lending. But again, we probably don't do as much as we used to. It's just the compliance again and the fines. It's a lot stickier. So we tend to just do it there. We might have a small business client. We do his equipment. We do their cars, and they say we have a son or a daughter that's after some finance. It's their first car. We want to be able to still do that because we don't want to lose that relationship. But in terms of the home loan market, definitely the banks. We see it, without naming the banks, and you'd read the same newspapers. We're not seeing anything yet, but I think it is still just a different market. It is different because I think they're more worried about mum and dads as opposed to business owners.
Understand.
Yeah, interesting. talking a little bit more about, and it is a really boring subject, but it is something that's going to come up and people are going to find themselves in that they'll hear about it a lot more with the anti-money laundering, because it's something that goes on in our, compliance heads, but it's about to become a much more spoken about situation, because it's going to start impacting accountants, financial advisors, lawyers do something. There's all these different ways of doing an ID and making sure that you're actually dealing with the person who says that you're dealing with. And we're about to start communicating with our clients, because as accountants, we've never really had to do a very, very strict sort of verifications of identity. We need to know who people are. We've got to, view their IDs, but it's about to become a whole lot harder. So we're all, anyone who's in the finance sort of side of things and dealing with people's money and people's data, we're all going to be doing that. And, from a policy sort of perspective, it would be really good if somebody in a government department who might be listening to this could just get something together that we can all use, because we're all doing the same stuff. Like if we're doing a verification of identity of a client that we've got and we then refer that client to you, why can't our verification of identity just go directly to you, Miles? It's like this crazy conversation to me that,
An example of that, Capital Finance is owned by Westpac, has been for 10 years plus, 100% owned. A lot of these processes are similar, but they're still separate. And I could introduce a client to Westpac today, do all that identification, do all the forms.
Yep.
Next week, for whatever reason, use Capital Finance. They don't talk. I have to do the same forms.
Yep.
And they might actually probably be just 10 feet away with a petition down the middle, because they're on the same floor. So that's, it's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
Yeah, super. So hopefully there's a software provider out there who's going to do something for us that will work it all together.
Streamline it and automate it.
It'd be super good if they could.
And whilst you're on there too, if you don't mind, fraud is probably something that's becoming more and more.
Yeah.
And we see it. We have examples go through our group. That's going to become more and more of a problem.
Yep.
And it could even sort of affect yourselves. So an example could be, Shane, you raise an invoice to one of your clients.
Yes.
And the hackers get a hold of your email.
Yes.
And then they will send that email to your client. So, by the way, see amended invoice with new BSB account details.
Yep.
It's as simple as that.
Yep.
It happens. We haven't been stung by it because we're pretty vigilant, but we do hear stories through our industry. But we've had ones where, it could be a multi-million-dollar crane.
Yes.
And if that, and the email has happened, we've been able to pick up on it.
Yeah.
But it's about, like you said, knowing your client, knowing the supplier, verifying through phone calls and face-to-faces. So
absolutely.
we're super vigilant, because we probably expose ourselves, even though it could be by innocently doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's becoming more and more prevalent. So I'm not sure if you had experiences yourself, but
we're very
what you do, it's going to be.
we're really diligent on that too. We phone calls and so on, if we need to for large transactions.
Who have had situations where they've where it's happened to them. So
clicking on a link and then
links.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the irony is, the banks are more and more about links.
Yes,
So when we do engage and they want to send the identification link to that client because they're remote, which means they click on it and they hold their driver's license up. The clients will be saying, but I don't want to click on that link because I don't know who it's from. So there is a bit of a circular thing going on at the moment.
There definitely is. There definitely is. Now we've talked about business way too much, so let's stop talking about business. Miles, I see you rode 42.2 kilometres and then rode, so rode and rode 100 kilometres to raise money for Beyond Blue. Tell us about that, because that's actually crazy. Like that's a crazy
what alcohol will do when you let's try this out.
Like a 100-kilometre ride, that is a long ride.
So probably a couple of years ago, I just started at the local gym doing more of the rowing, and I got a couple of sons that row. I never did it, but it was probably, I like it in the gym because you can't get wet. And you can hop off whenever you feel like it. So I just have a thing, and most of the people at the gym don't like doing it. And I'd always say to the gym guy, I don't mind this, I'll just keep doing it. So I think it was just pushing myself. So I think I did a 5K one day, then I did a 10K a few months later, and holding signs thinking, how good's that? I guess for me, it was just getting out of my comfort zone outside of work. And then, I did a full marathon row with another a mate. That was the first one. So that was the full marathon distance, 42 whatever K.
Yeah.
He's a few years younger than me. If he's listening or sees this, he's a lot younger than me. We did another one in September, I think it was last year. So I think we did Movember and Cancer Council for the second one.
Yeah.
And I think after the second one, we were debriefing over one too many glasses of wine and said, we should do another one. I said, I think we should just change this one up a bit. And I just threw it out there. Said, why don't we tack on a 100-kilometre spin bike, gym bike straight afterwards?
Yeah.
And obviously at the time we're like, that's great. And a few days later, he's run me. He said, you sure about the 100K? I said, no, let's just do it. So that was the plan, and did a fair bit of practice on it, and we did that about 6 weeks ago, and it took for me nearly 9 hours.
Okay.
But look, it was the feeling of accomplishment.
Yep.
Yes, it was. But for me, it was also the training, because having done the marathons before too, sitting on a spin bike for 60 kilometres and you're going at 20 odd Ks an hour, it's still 2 to 3 hours on your butt. So, and I think with my sons too, it's nice to do things like that. I'm a bit older now, and Dad can still do some things that are a bit silly. So it was great. So there was a few of us did. I roped a few other people in this time. Said raised over $15,000.
Right.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
So I had a thank you from Beyond Blue, but said it was all for the right reasons.
Yeah.
There might be another one. I don't know if we can get any crazier from my point. I think if they take it to another level, I might be the organizer maybe next one.
Yeah, okay.
I'll probably do something still. I'll want to and can, but it'd be maybe later in the year or the year after.
So psychologically, we did a long walk a couple of weeks ago, and that was pretty hard. But you say I'm stats man, so I'm always running through my head. I'm 2 hours into a 9-hour event or something. I'm only 20% of the way there, or whatever it might be. How do you keep going? Because I'm thinking, that's not moving fast enough to get to the 100%.
That was not very motivating.
I think leading up to it, the longest stint I did in the gym was did the half marathon, and you do a few leading up, like running a marathon. So I did a half and then jumped on and did I think 60 or 70K, just to see how my body was going. And I thought, no, that's okay. And that was a couple of weeks out. So the actual day was going to be, this will be interesting how it ends up. But having done the marathon too, it was a little bit different. I've done the road twice. So it is, you're just breaking it down in your head, 10 kilometres at a time. Again, my sons will probably watch this. The ones that I've watched row said I've never rode a metre on the water. But when you're watching them row, they're 2 kilometre races. So when you're training for it, you're doing 10K rows, and we're one at home, so I can watch the TV, distract myself a little bit. But the 10K row for me is, give or take 45, 50 minutes. And then, to break that up, I literally in my head will imagine that I'm rowing upstream to the start line, because they have to row up. So that's 2 kilometres. Then they race down. That's 4 kilometres. I might have it around the wrong way, but then they row up again, or whichever way it is. 6. So in my head, I break those 2 kilometres down as though they're on and off with their races. And then I think when I was getting to the 40K, you could say that's like rowing on you're doing 3 races on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Just breaking it down, like you said. The bike was harder, I think, because the rowing you can still go up and down a little bit in how quick you're doing it, just to break things up a little bit. But I found that, about the 4th hour of sitting on that stationary bike, that you can't, once you're into a rhythm on that bike and you've got the tension set where it's comfortable, you can't really suddenly just get off your seat and start going super sprinting. And the other thing that, why 100, I had done a bike ride a couple of times a few years ago during COVID down Mornington Way, and it was about 100 Ks. But I quickly realised during the training part of this that a stationary bike, there is no downhill where you can just your legs
down,
for a while. There's no anything. So the legs have got to keep going the whole time. So that was probably the hardest thing. Whereas you can go up a hill and you go, there's going to be the downhill bit. But on the stationary bike, there wasn't that. So so that last hour, I just really was watching those last few kilometres. There's nothing I could do to make them go any quicker.
Amazing effort anyway. That's incredible.
So you did it in a gym?
This one was actually in the finance game, one of the lenders. Shout out to Dino Money. They're in a serviced building in South Melbourne. So she was able to get access to their communal basketball court gym.
Amazing.
So we just all lined ourselves up. There was 5 of us on the day, and a few people, well wishers came in during the day. A few of them just rolled their eyes and said, "Why are you doing this?"
I think that would have been me.
That's right.
Can I give you a glass of something?
I don't know. You're 30 Ks into your row and you're in a rhythm. But if you start talking, you'll lose the rhythm, and they start wanting to have a chat. really? So that was nice to get people coming in during the course of the day.
Yeah. That's a cool thing to do. I think, having a corporate element to it and understanding that it's not just about you going and doing this, ridiculous number of kilometres, however you're doing it, but, bringing a community together with that sort of stuff as well.
We had a few refreshments afterwards at one of the pubs there in South Melbourne.
Yeah.
I still remember the ones that were all after a few drinks saying, I'll do it next year with you. So they don't
Okay,
know who they were. I'll be hitting them up. Yeah. Someone said, why don't you add a swim leg? And I said, not really.
No.
That requires physical, like getting in a pool, right?
Correct. Yeah,
that's right. I just said, I'll sit in the bath for as long as you're swimming.
How does one recover from that? Like, how long did it take you to recover? Because as Shane said, we did a 20K walk a couple of weeks ago, and it probably took us maybe 3 days before the body stopped feeling like your hips and your knees were about to give way. How long does it take you to recover?
Again, it was, because that was the first time I've done that length. I think I wasn't sore the next day. I had a lower back that was a little stiff, and that was more through where your posture is on the bike, not the row. So I think if your technique's okay on the row, then it's just time. Calluses on your hands from rowing, so that's why you need prep time to build the calluses up. So I'd say, like when I've done the rows as well, it's just the hunger, because you need your calories. You're just burning so many.
Yeah, okay.
And you can't really eat while you're rowing.
It's a bit
you can't
it's
take
a two-handed exercise. So at least on the bike, you could grab drinks a bit more and nibble on some food. But again, you're not really eating. So and then by the time we finish, you're out having a couple of celebratory drinks and some chips. So definitely the next day, the body was screaming for calories for food. So it was probably a couple of days of just being, but at the same time, as much as you're screaming for food, you've obviously lost a bit of weight through just the sweating over 9 hours. And certainly not an elite athlete, but it was at least 2 or 3 days, I think, before I felt normal. And then there was a bit of just lethargy, just general lethargy. So I was going back to the gym, never to go, I'm straight back into it. But just things were like, this will take a little while. But certainly feel normal now. It's been about 6 weeks. Still not at a point of sitting down with the same idiots and saying, when are we doing the next one?
I was going to say that too, Miles. Is there an element of like, I've done that now, so like, what's the next thing? Like, when does the mind start saying, okay, now I know I can do a 100K bike ride on the spin bike. What's the next thing?
And that's what it probably will be. I like challenges, I suppose, setting personal challenges. I like numbers. And so it'll be something different. Stay tuned. I don't know what it'll be. It certainly won't be jumping out of a plane, anything like that.
There's not adrenaline involved in it. It's just a challenge.
Right. And pushing ourselves. So I think with the 100K, one of them, the ones that was involved said, maybe 6 weeks out, why don't we just pair it back to 50? And it made sense. I said, I've committed to it. My mind's saying it's going to hurt, but let's just do it anyway. So,
and now you've done 100. Do you go? Is it like about getting more than that, or is it
I knew we were going to
the threshold. That's it.
100 is the.
I don't know.
It's probably an hours thing. Is it like
you
can't do more than like 9 hours sitting on a bike?
Well, the row was just under 4. The bike was about 5. So look, I'm not sure. There is 100K rows, but again, I don't think body would stick up for that. The other guy the main guy, Chris, wants to do it. He may probably do that, but no, we'll stay tuned, wait and see. I do something with Movember every year. It's more of a like a business lunch with 15, 20 people. We raise money for Movember, and I'll do that again this year. And then it may be something physical that leads up to that to encourage a few extra donations. So,
excellent. What are because you said your boys are actual rowers, like not that you're not an actual rower because you are, but is there ever any motivation to get on the water for you? Like, do you think to yourself, maybe I'll give it a go?
No, and even through the boys' school, they give the ability for parents at the start of the next season to get in boats, learn how to row, and then there's like a parent row down the Yarra.
They
can do it. That's fine.
I reckon I'm probably with you there because one of our kids doesn't row, but she does whitewater kayaking, and she goes down, waterfalls and does ridiculous things like that. And Shane will sometimes say, "Oh, that looks like cool fun," and then he would probably do it and fall in, and there'd be something that would
especially
go
the
wrong.
Yarra River.
But I'm not even.
That's the thing they didn't like when they were learning was falling into the Yarra River. Yeah, worst thing I'm just going to do is get leg cramp in the gym. So,
Fair weather. Keep the roof over the head.
It's got to be dry. As long
correct.
as it's dry, it's fine.
Yeah,
I think that's where we're at as well. That I mean, the 20K walk that we did was well and truly enough for me. I'm not really a endurance athlete or anything.
If you're pushing yourself and you know you've gone a bit further where you thought you would, that's the accomplishment. So
Exactly.
Definitely.
Back to business for a little bit, because you're a family business as well, even though, Finlease is a much bigger organisation. Tell us a little bit about, what family business means to you and how that works for you as well, because, that's what we are to
you
do.
are as well. So we have been for many years now also members of the Family Business Association for that reason. So Mark O'Donoghue started the business way back when, it'd be 30 plus years. We don't know the exact year. And it was probably a family of 20 odd staff when I joined in the Sydney office. Was up there for a while, from Melbourne originally. And now it's over 100. It's still treated like a large family. Mark's had his son and daughter, through the business. And I've got 3 sons. None of them are inclined to go in dad's steps, which is fine. That's great. They're doing their own thing. But do have my brother, one of my brothers, who's been working with me now for 3 years. So part of our team, and that's going well. And there's certainly some of the guys in Sydney have got brothers working with them now. So it's certainly not nepotism, but at the same time, if who can you trust more than family? And if they want to work and etc., then why not? So that's I enjoy it. And a lot of our clients are SME,
family businesses. Exactly.
And I've had the privilege with one extended family that's I think they're either 7th or 8th generation.
Wow.
So the rural, Victorian family. And again, it was through the Family Business Association dealing with them. And that was just amazing that some of these businesses can be that layered. So to see a lot more sort of second generation businesses these days. And again, that's a skill set. You can be dealing with that first generation. Everyone's kids are different to their parents. So you just have to develop different relationships with the next generation coming through. Hopefully us crusty old brokers, they don't want to deal with some 20-year something or other, but that's fine. So, so a lot of what we do is dealing with SMEs. As much as we might have corporate clients, 90% of our clients would be sub 10 million sort of turnover businesses. It's just the nature of what we do.
The family nature of how business works, the importance of relationship in that sort of thing. Like, as you said, you've now got the second generation coming through, or, third or fourth, or however the case may be. For you, what does that mean when you see like the next generation get involved and start to, really build a business? And sometimes, there's a lot of change that goes on. And how do you feel personally about that sort of stuff? Do you feel like a sense of pride when you see like you've helped that business get to where it's going? And
absolutely. I think just in a more broader, I love developing those relationships with clients. Today, yesterday, whatever it was, and just going on that journey with them. And some go up and down and then up again. And I think they're probably just even more, I get more of a buzz out of the ones that are going through difficult times. It's always easy to work with someone when things are going well. Like with a lot of things in life. But if clients get into difficulties and their bank for whatever reason can't or won't help them, and to get them solutions that gets them through, and then they come out the other side, that's a real buzz. I think for the most part of what I do, my buzz is the result on difficult transactions. Still love all my clients, still love every deal I do. And easy deals are easy deals. But to get those ones that there's some curveballs and things like that you've got to deal with, because that's the best phone call you can make for me is getting someone on the end of and they've been referred to me, they're down the dumps, the bank said no, therefore my business is no good or whatever, and you just have a chat to them, you go, and I think we can get you a solution. And then you get that solution, you make that phone call. You get ready for a good weekend, and you can tell, and you go, I got you approved. And they go, oh my God. And they sit back and they go, that's fantastic. And so for me, it's the personal buzz. I love that. Other side, not every transaction can work, and it's part of what we do. You have to ring up that client who was hoping, and we haven't been able to get them the result. But the wins are more than the losses, and that's to me still the biggest buzz I get, and why I still, I guess, passionate about it after all these years. That's probably a good note for us to finish the episode on, because
obviously you love what you do, Miles. It's really, we really appreciate our relationship with you as well. We'll share all of your details as part of this, and if any of our listeners have any finance needs, if you're a client of ours, you can come through Shane or your client manager, but obviously you can also contact Finlease directly, and they'll work with you. So we'll share all of that and make sure that everyone knows who you are and what you do, because the reason why we have this podcast and our network and community is because we really love to share people who have similar values and ideals to us, and the fact that you love business as much as what we do, which is a bit crazy, but that's okay, is really important. So thank you for joining us today and sharing a little bit about your story. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity as well. So
no worries. Thanks,
Thank you.
Miles. Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode of Q&A with S&A. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll chat again soon.